What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Rusty Garage. Today we're working on the 93 W250. The blower motor is, I suspect, getting weak and quitting on me. Sometimes when I get in the truck, I can turn the switch on and it'll blow in all three positions per the switch, and then it just slows down and stops. So I'm suspecting that the motor's getting weak on it. So I do have some parts. Let me show you what I got. Okay, I've got a new blower motor. Got it on Amazon. Let's see if that works for it. We will have to change the, take the plug-in off the old one. Switch. I've had this switch sitting on the shelf for a long time. That's the part number if you need a switch. And I did go ahead and pick up a resistor. That's the part number for the Dorman resistor, if we need one. This wasn't very expensive. It was fairly cheap. It was also got on Amazon, but most parts stores should have that. So let's, I think the first thing we're going to do is check for voltage at the motor. Should have 12 volts, and if we do, then I would suspect that the blower motor is indeed quitting on us. So let's check that. Okay, so for checking the fan plug for the blower motor, that's the plug into it right there. I do have the truck turned on, got my voltmeter, got hooked up to a ground. So let's get this unplugged and check for voltage. Okay, I think that spot will work. There's a little tab on the side of the switch. Plug in, push that in, pull it out. So we are showing 0 volts. One side's going to be hot, one side's going to be grounded. So that side, I do have the fan switch all the way turned up, selected on vent, still showing 0. Try that plug, and 11.9 to 12 volts. So we are getting power to the fan, but the fan's not working. Okay, so next step is going to be removing this cover right here, this black cover. Supposedly you should be able to open this flap and see, there's the fan motor right there, and get to it. That always seems fairly tight to me. So you can take this cover off by undoing all these clips and pulling this harness out of the way, and then you've got a few screws, one back over here, one here, which my case is broke, and the cover picks up off of these metal tabs back here, and you can remove the entire cover. So we'll do that, and then I'll show you what that looks like once I get that cover off. Okay, I was just going to show you, I've got the wires pulled out of that. So we've got one screw here. There's one screw right there. And down here, there's another screw. So I'll get those 3 screws out, and we will get that cover removed. Also, something else you could do fairly quick with your new fan motor, you could temporarily put some spade connectors on there and plug that in and turn it on. The shaft should spin. So we may do that just to show you that process. Okay, Here's the new blower motor. I didn't have any regular spade connectors, so I just took some of these terminals and cut the end off. So let's plug it in and see if it works. Okay, so if you're suspecting that it's your fan motor, but you don't want to go through all the trouble of removing all that stuff, I mean, you gotta, if you do replace it, you gotta take this end off and splice it on to the new motor. So anyways, let's see. Also, these motors, if you can see, they're bi-directional, just depending on which way you hook the wires up. So anyways, let's see if it works. We tried the old one, it didn't do anything. We checked for voltage here, and we had voltage. So okay, I'm gonna go turn the key on and turn the fan switch on. Okay, well, we just proved there, this fan, it works. It changes speed with the switch, so we do have a bad fan motor. So let me get that cover pulled off and get all that unhooked. Okay, well, that helps eliminate things and helps you go through the trouble of having to remove that entire piece. So I'll bring you back. I'm gonna go ahead and get those 3 screws out and I'll get that cover off. Okay, we got that big piece of rubber off. Told you there's a screw hole there, one right there. That one I zoomed in on, and also that one was hard to see because it was under this, but there's another one right there. And these screws, all they are is a self-tapping with a large washer on it. 5/16 fits those, or an 8mm. So it's off. There's a little elbow. I'll show you where that goes here in just a second. Okay, so that's with the cover off. That little rubber elbow that I just showed you, it hooks into that hole right there and comes up to the bottom of the motor. You can see the motor has a hole in the bottom of it. Anyways, that's for that elbow. So now all we got to do is pull these 3 screws out that mount the motor, and there's a gasket right here. Take that with it, and the squirrel cage and everything will come with it. So let me go ahead and get that pulled off. Okay, so we got the old motor off. Looks like there's a clip right here. We'll take off, and this fan should slide off. So we know the fan rotates this way. So on the old motor, or the new motor, it gives you directions: orange wire to rotate counterclockwise, black wire to rotate clockwise. So knowing that, I looked at the plug, and I know this green wire is the side that was hot on the other side of that plug. So we'll splice the green wire with the orange wire, and then black to black. So let me go ahead and do that. The screws that held that together, they're 1/4 inch. That's what holds this on, and also we'll need this gasket. See if I can get the fan out first. Okay, so I got the squirrel cage off. That was actually kind of a pain. Had to take that little clip off. I really figured this would have a set screw in it. But anyways, I sprayed some WD-40 on there and I just had to keep working it back and forth on the shaft and finally got it where it would come out. So now that that's off, we can get it installed on the new one. There is a flat spot right there on this. Same with on the motors. There's a flat spot. So should just have to line that up to it. And slid right in. Okay. I guess that little clip was enough to hold that fan in place for the last 30 years, so let me get the old plug-in cut off and these ends cut off, and I'm gonna solder it all together and heat shrink it. So that's what I'll do next. Okay, so soldering this is fairly straightforward. Cut all your ends off. So I've got torch, solder, some uninsulated straight connectors, rosin, which I like to use whenever I have dirty wires, wire strippers, and heat shrink. Sorting the heat shrink. So first thing is going to be strip the wire. And that wire is fairly dirty, so we will use the rosin on it. So that. Solder and heat shrink is by far the best connection if you have to make some. And if you can get the heat shrink with the adhesive on the inside of it, that stuff works way better. So that should be good. Go ahead and put these on. Don't solder your connectors without putting your heat shrink on. Ask me how I know. Okay. They're in. Let's see here. These fit? They will. Okay. So, just mash these wires in the solder here. That's just going to help clean. I know this solder is a rosin core, but having it a little extra clean isn't going to hurt anything. So that's on. Get a pair of crimpers. This rosin is going to melt out of here whenever it gets hot. That's okay. It's part of the process of it cleaning itself, cleaning the wire. Okay, so we decided we want the orange wire with the green wire. And the black wire with the black wire. Okay. So that's together. So now heat this up and get the solder on here. You know when it's hot enough, you can watch this metal and it'll actually change temperature or colors. It'll look it'll almost look wet. And when it gets to that point, that solder, see there it just went, that solder will just go right in there. Okay, well, that one's on. Ain't going nowhere. We'll flip this around and get this one up high. And we'll solder it. I prefer to use a flame. You can use a regular soldering iron, they work fine too. You just gotta watch the wire insulation when you're using a flame. You can melt it pretty quick. I think I'm about out of butane. Yep. Okay. Let me go get this torch refilled. Okay, we're back. Got this thing filled up. My old snap-on soldering iron, I bought it a long time ago. It just got where it didn't work that well anymore. So I got this soldering iron. It is off Amazon. And it was in for, I guess, bakers use one of these also. And same with my my neighbors. This is probably what they used to cook dinner with. So drop a comment if you understand what I was getting at or meaning. Okay, it's going to be good enough. So the heat shrink, that's the next step. Almost could have went with another size, but that'll work just fine. Okay, that one's on. That one's cooled off. A little burr with the solder. Okay, it's sucked back in now. So I'll give that just a second to cool off and then I'll install this last heat shrink. Still a little warm. If it was real loose, I wouldn't worry about it, but since it's tighter, if you push that up on there and it's hot, it's instantly going to start shrinking down. So you need to get this fairly cool. Okay, last one. Okay. Now we can go ahead and get this thing put back on. Don't forget our gasket, we're going to need it. It'll fit over this. Might take a little persuasion. There. Gasket. Gasket's on. Okay, well, let's get this thing installed. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and put that new fan up here, plug it in, and just double check that the rotation's correct before I get it all the way down in there. And I'm going to go ahead and get this thing assembled, and I'll show you what it looks like. We'll just do it in the reverse order. Put the fan in. Don't forget your tube that hooks into the bottom of the motor and then the bottom of that box. Then once that's in and plugged in, we can put that rubber cover back on and get those 4 screws back in it. Then we should be good to go. Okay. So we got the fan, get the screws. Remember that that hose pops in there. Okay, that's in, and that'll hook onto that tube down there. Okay, that's on. Get the screw started. Little knob that fits up in this. There we go. Okay. Both of those are in. That was in. Okay, let's plug this in. Just make sure that it is indeed blowing in the cab like it should be. Okay, let's see if it works. Oh yeah, you can hear it. That's blowing better than it ever has. Okay, that thing works amazing, way better than it ever has. I'm gonna go ahead and get that rubber cover thread on, get the screws in it, and get that wiring harness put back up, and we're gonna be wrapping this video up. fight with that dude a little bit to get it where it goes. I still got to get something down in here to push a little bit more. So I'm going to work on that, get it back in there where it should be, and get it bolted up. Okay, that is on. By far the biggest pain of this whole job was putting this back on, but I did manage to get all the bolts in. Those two lower ones actually were easier to get in from the bottom, reaching up through there. So anyways, fan works now. If anyone wants me to go ahead and replace the resistor on this thing, just to show you how to do that, I can. But for now, that's going to wrap this job up. All in all, really wasn't a bad job. That rubber cover was just a bit of a pain, just because you had to tuck it in kind of under where the fan box is. But anyways, if you found any of the information helpful, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, share the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.